Hey everybody, we're still on Christmas, and today we'll talk about the latest trends and what we'll be expecting on 2021 from social commerce to enhanced AR, streaming platforms, and antitrust lawsuits. Join me on this episode of NYM Podcast. If you want to know more, stick around. Hey, I'm Not Your Marketer, Alberto Lempira, aka Lempi. Welcome to the Not Your Marketer podcast. This is episode 7 from December 21st, 2020. Thank you for joining me. Today, we will talk about the latest trends and what is coming for 2021 in marketing, business, and tech. And instead of running through the headlines this time around, I will number some of the trends that I trust will make the headlines in 2021. And I will match them with current news so that we can back up these thoughts and to see what is the current state of those trends. So, without any further ado, let's just jump into those trends. So, the first one is online shopping, and online shopping will become way more convenient for users on the internet. So, I have mentioned in the past how Redbook in China has achieved to get millions of users online to purchase products promoted by influencers on live stream events. Well, this time around, Walmart will try this out in the US with TikTok as a strategic partnership rises on the horizon. What they are going to do is to promote some specific products while some influencers do some live streaming events on the platform. With that being said, it could be live streamed by influencers from the Walmart account or by their own accounts. Instagram has made its IG shopping experience available in many countries also in 2020. So the one click shopping experience is coming to social platforms. And this is something, for the sake of being convenient, that is going to reduce the time from browsing the product to completing and fulfilling the process and the purchase. So in 2020, probably what we are going to see is all these social media platforms investing more and more into making their shopping experience more streamlined, more easy to use, and also more available to more countries. Right now, IG shopping is not available worldwide. They're just rolling it out on a slow pace because they have to make sure that everything works before just opening the doors to everyone to come in. And they are also looking for some partners in those new markets when they arrive with this feature, at least, to make this huge launch for that. With that being said, feature. So, no, I have no doubts that online shopping is going to be super relevant in 2021, especially because 2020 has seen a rise on the use of e-commerce from all sizes, from well-known companies like Amazon, Walmart, you name it, Etsy, to the small and medium-sized businesses that they didn't have any other option that jumping into the e-commerce land with the whole COVID and coronavirus pandemic. So the thing here that you have to think is, how can you leverage on this e-commerce movement, especially on the social media side of it? This is something that we in the Western Hemisphere are not so familiarized with. But as I mentioned, in Asia, there's some, so great examples of how social commerce can be even more robust and more profitable than just regular e-commerce, that this poses a great opportunity for many businesses. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what we see from different brands in 2021. So the second trend would be the comeback of influencer marketing. I said comeback because for some reason, at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, influencer marketing campaigns appeared to be a little bit slower. The fact is that in the latest report from Klear, which is an influencer platform, about the state of the influencer marketing in 2021, they have they found out that influencer campaigns and collaborations between brands and influencers went up by 57% in terms of impressions and reach in 2020 compared to 2019. I mean, with the pandemic and all. And one reason that we can use to justify that is obviously a lot of us and a lot of people were online more time than in 2020 in 2019, I'm sorry, because of obviously the lockdowns and the pandemic situation. But they also mentioned that sponsored stories on Instagram went up by 32%, and that TikTok's collaborations between influencers and brands increased by over 100%. So again, keep in mind that this is in the meantime, the US government was after TikTok, and there was a threat of them not being able to be allowed on the US market. And yet companies and brands still, or they kept investing on campaigns on TikTok. So that shows you, or that just hints us on how profitable those campaigns may be. So influencers are migrating from posts to stories. They can have more control over their profile with that kind of content, but also that can boost a more dynamic relationship with brands, because if you have to post every 24 hours a content, or if you have posted a content that is only going to be alive for 24 hours, that means that you will have to do more things, and you will have to, well, to have a different kind of agreement with the brands to publish the content. Also, Gen Z influencers are the highest earning demographics on influencer marketing, which is also interesting because they're the youngest. But that just again give us another hint of how the market is going or is moving in terms of influencers doing campaigns on social media, especially on social media, of course. So obviously these as time moves on, millennials are becoming parents, are becoming, well, they are replacing the baby boomers and the Gen X um, side or part or of the business on the market share, and the Gen Z is taking over what millennials were used to be, their place. And this is just going to be and represent different circumstances for brands when they want to target different kind of audiences, especially if they want to target Gen Z, and even preparing for generation alpha as well. So social activism goes super well with influencers, and that showcased on 2020 with the different social movements like Black Lives Matters and all the stuff. Um, the brands that partner with some influencers to launch influencer campaigns based on those kind of actions, social activism and so forth, they saw an increase, super relevant increase on the interactions, the impressions, the online word of mouth, that would be. And again, that makes total sense, because what you are doing is that you are giving your brand a voice in the body of another person. And it's super important to keep in mind that you need to do the right selection of influencer for these kind of campaigns, because those influencers should be very well matched with your values. I mean, the core values of the company and what you represent. And otherwise, it works both ways, because you as a brand should be a good match for that influencer, for the campaign to be more profitable and to have a higher return on investment as well. And finally, one thing that it's particularly interesting is that many toy companies are partnering with influencers, especially on TikTok, to reach kids. And this is, having into account that kids are not supposed to have, when I mean kids are child's 14 under, 14 years old and under, they are not supposed to have TikTok's account, because the law will not allow it. But the thing here is that many times they reach that audience through their parents' profiles, which is also kind of interesting, because instead of being a direct, kind of a direct marketing strategy, it's more like a shopper marketing strategy, in the case that you are not targeting the people who makes the decision, in this case who is going to follow that account on the social platform, but you are rather targeting the end user, the one who are going to consume that kind of content. And this is super interesting. It's a great approach to get to that audience and to prepare them to be your future customers as well. Coming right up, 2021 will be the year of streaming platforms. So Disney announced a few weeks ago a whole bunch of new shows and movies coming to Disney Plus from the universes of Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel, and more. On the other hand, Warner Brothers announced that they will stream all 2021 movie premieres on HBO Max and theaters simultaneously. So these open doors for new opportunities and and it also set a new landscape for marketers, because I mentioned these in the previous episode of this podcast. The fragmentation of the video on demand streaming platforms probably is getting into a point, or will get into a point in 2021, where companies like, or platforms like Roku or Apple TV or Amazon Fire will, for them will make sense to gather and to compile, if you could say compile or combine different streaming platforms in just one service, so that you can pay for what you need, or even to pay for the movie premieres or the TV shows that you would like to watch only. Nevertheless, Disney Plus saw a huge increase in their user base in 2020. They exceeded all their expectations, and new players coming into the field in 2021 are betting heavy on how to leverage on that. At the beginning, when with Netflix and Hulu, probably with Amazon Prime Video, it was more difficult for companies to make the case of, for what would you need to pay for these kind of services. Right now, the idea is more mature in the mindset of customers, so it's easier for a new player coming over to just consolidate their position in the marketplace. So this is something that probably in 2021 will we're going to listen a lot of and hear a lot of news from this. And there is one thing that we haven't mentioned, and it is how and what opportunities these will represent, aside from just product positioning in and the different shows and so forth, are there for marketers. This is a huge business and a new market that is developing right now. So for me, it would make sense to create an advertising marketplace of the kinds of Google or Facebook, where you will be able to target customers depending on what kind of shows are they watching, what are their preferences. Obviously, there are more demographic information. If you think about that, you can have multiple profiles on all these platforms, so you can know, or you could get that information about which preferences does each one of those user profiles have, so that you can tailor specific advertising for each one of those. So let's just wait and see for what 2021 brings up to us in the terms of streaming platforms. So another trend that you could think that it would be the reboot of an old trend by now. It's about the not so new tech, which is going to be reinvented. So Nike introduced a new digital experience for their e-commerce or online shopping experience using virtual reality and holograms. This is just for that customers can get to know and have a look at how the products looks before completing the purchase. And if you think about this, there has been many attempts to achieve a seamless platform or experience where customers can try their products out. We have like IKEA. IKEA have done this for quite a long time with AR, where you can put the all the like the furniture and sofas and whatever and tables and desks on your home, on the floor. On the room in the room that you are intended to put that furniture, just to see how it looks. But now Google also it's making their way into AR using a new or reimagining how AR can be used for testing products, especially beauty products, before buying them. And this has something to do, or a lot to do, with the situation with the COVID pandemic. So, for many companies, especially beauty and makeup companies, um, the situation during the lockdowns and the pandemic as a whole was quite difficult, because it was not users or customers were not allowed to test out beauty products in stores. Some other wouldn't. They didn't have the wardrobe and the fitting rooms. Available or open for the public. So this end up being a necessity that we have not covered yet. We have seen many attempts, especially on Snapchat, some on Instagram with the AR filters, and some beauty companies and makeup companies where people could, I don't know, like try out the lipstick color, whatever, or the foundation or whatever. We even have, like Gucci also had some AR experience in their app, where you could test the shoes on your on I mean in per- I mean virtually, so that you could have like a sense of how they would look on you. But the thing here is that now we have a lot more technology available on everyone's smartphones, from I don't know, from iPhone 12 Pro, for example, that has lighter, and so many other phones that have some improved cameras and visual capabilities that can help for that technology to be more useful. And that could make more sense, because if you ever tried the Gucci one, it feels like if you were trying out a cartoon shoe instead of the real one. And this is part of the experience. In order to be meaningful for the customer, it has to be real. It has to feel real, at least. So Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, we have many players that are working on this. Facebook, obviously, behind all this as well. So probably 2021 we could start to see some standards in the terms of how AR should work for customers to try products on before purchasing. And this would make it easier for a lot of marketers to implement that technology into their marketing efforts once, the R&D has been done by these large companies. So obviously, we're going to start keep seeing a lot of this coming on 2021. And last but not least, we have first party data and not trusting anyone. That is the name that I gave to this trend. It has to do with two things. The first one, on an IIB report that showed how cookieless era and its ramifications is a top priority for marketers looking towards 2021. As you know, in 2021, we are going to transition to a cookieless uh, internet where tracking the information from each user is going to rely only on first hand data. I mean, the data that you can gather yourself from that user. So, ramping up testing and relying on more self leveraged databases seem to be the first approach to tackle this issue, according to IAB. 41 of advertising agencies don't know if their clients are aware of the impact that this will have on the performance marketing campaigns. If you think about this, performance marketing is the pinnacle of how we run marketing online. You have to think about KPIs. You have to think about your objective and your goals, for the sake of not wasting any resources. So, Facebook introduced a time ago the conversions API to work around a little bit about this, because what you will have is, from your assets like your e-commerce, your website, whatever, you will have a direct connection to Facebook database so that you can nurture with your own data your campaigns running on Facebook and Instagram. The thing here is that obviously, Facebook was preparing ahead of time for this scenario. Probably what we are going to see, at least at the beginning, is just a hiccup in the while we start to adapt to these new circumstances. Obviously, first recommendation here, have make sure, especially if you use Facebook advertising for Facebook, either Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, you have to be working with the conversions API by now, because that way you're going to have a clearer reading of the conversions, and you're going to be able to track more precisely your campaigns. So, on the other hand, why not trusting anyone? So, antitrust lawsuits against these big tech giants are going to gain traction. Why? Because we have, we have seen how in 2020, Facebook and Google have been the target, because they are after, the gathering of all these data for the sake of advertising purposes. Okay, so we don't know how these multiple lawsuits are going to end up but what we are sure is that obviously other companies like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, you name it, they are also being looked upon by regulators, because they, as quote unquote, protecting competition by making sure that nobody work around or find a loophole into the anti-monopoly laws. Here's the thing. What is the great issue with these big tech companies? From my point of view, at least, it's not the case that they have a lot of information, which, obviously, that it's just one variable of the issue. But the thing, if you take a look at all the acquisitions from Google, Apple, Facebook, you name it, many of those competitors that were acquired, many of those features were never implemented or incorporated into some of their own products. I have one clear example. I was a super fan of Songsa. Songsa was a music platform that it was brilliant for the music curation. They created this set of incredible playlists depending on the moment of the day and what day of the week it was, so that you could listen to music. It was not like music on the like Apple Music or Spotify, where you can, or Spotify Premium, where you could play whatever music you wanted. It was totally free, and what you had was just a bunch of playlists to listen to music. For music discoverability, it was so great. Like, I have not found any other alternative yet. So supposedly those features were going to be implemented on Google Play Music at that moment. um, they were never there. I mean, or at least I wouldn't find it when I tried. I used the free trial for Google Play Music. I couldn't find those features. So in my opinion, this is a problem, or this is the threat of these big tech companies. It's not necessarily that they are huge and they're becoming larger and larger. Is that sometimes they seem to crush competition just for the sake of not having other threatening their position in the market, and that I think hurts innovation big time, super big time. And obviously, this is something that we are just taking a look at the tip of the iceberg in the end, in the final days of 2020, and we are going to wait and see. I mean, obviously, 2021, we are not going to have the final outcome of these lawsuits, because they usually take years to develop. But probably we're going to see a lot more lawsuits coming over to maybe these big tech companies or some other that may not be that huge. Because one of the things that, and I think, I mean, one of the arguments that Facebook has against the in the US, for that matter, is that the acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp, they were approved not only by the US regulators but by the European Union's one. So why are they going after to revisit those cases when they already have given their approval to those acquisitions? So I think that there has been a mindset change from the public sector that probably is going to make them look at the big tech acquisitions from another point of view. And this is obviously going to affect how I mean, the opportunity that we have for businesses, for marketing, and for obviously for tech. And it's going to ultimately affect how many more options are available or not to users. So the year is coming to an end, and hopefully, we're not getting any new surprises from 2020. So, obviously, I wanted to close the last episode of 2020 with talking about resolutions, New Year resolutions, especially from a marketer's point of view. So, probably New Year's resolutions for a marketer are a never ending list with many things that we want to achieve and we want to accomplish. So, probably one of the things that many of us marketers have every year on our resolutions list is about I mean, how are we managing our marketing strategy? It doesn't matter if it's for a personal brand or a large company or a one person business. Usually, there's always chance for improvement, right? So, from the first episode of 2021, I'm going to start a series of episodes that are aimed to help us marketers to set our strategy. Okay, I'm going to cover the very basics of marketing. I'm doing this because I also want this to be useful for my students in the coming terms in that would be, and I just want to help. I mean, with my humble knowledge, to those of you who may thinking about, or I mean, that you have to improve some strategies on your marketing efforts, but you are not quite there, or you don't know how to begin with. Okay, so please try to make a fresh start on 2021. 2020 has been particularly difficult for many of us. Even if you have had the luck to keep your job and to do well economically, everybody has been affected by isolations, lockdowns, and so forth. I mean, we are social beings, so being away from people, for many of us, obviously, there are some that would rather live in caves, and that is totally fine. But for many of us, losing that human warmth has affected us. And I think that we have learned to appreciate a little bit more the time that we have with other people. So keep that in mind on your resolutions list. How can you improve your marketing strategy? So it could be just marketing strategies, it could be a campaign, it could be just how do you set up the marketing for a new project that you are working on. And I will be there in the first episode of 2021 for helping you to figure some things out. So if you have any questions about some specifics, or if there is any topic that you would like to listen my point of view, from my experience as well, humble experience, feel free to send me a message on any platform, and I will be more than happy to tailor those episodes on your needs. Well, guys, I wanted to thank you for joining me. I also wanted to thank you to all of you who have followed me from the first episode. And it's incredible that we already have 7 episodes plus a bonus one. I'm looking forward to having you join me on 2021. I wish you the happiest of holidays, and may 2021 be the best year yet. I wish that you can have a great time with your loved ones, and please be safe, and see you back again on the next year, 2021.